and welcome to another JavaEE tutorial. First, I'm going to apologize for the long break. I've actually been working a little bit on the new version of the server that we have been using to build these projects. It's an open source project, so anyone can actually contribute to it, but I've actually been pouring a lot of my time into that because it's really beneficial, and I'm really excited about the new version that's going to be coming out pretty soon. It's got some amazing features, and the startup time is ridiculously fast. You guys have been waiting through like 45 to a minute, seconds to a minute long startup, and this thing will start up sometimes in under 2 seconds, which is incredible. So with all that being said, I'm back, and I'm going to be making some more tutorials for you guys. As I mentioned in the last time, we're going to be saying goodbye to the tutorial project, and before we get rid of it and ignore it forever, I want to tell you guys a little bit about what you've been learning so far and give you some more concrete names of all the technologies you've been using. So in this expression DAO, which you've been using to save the expressions to the database or persist them, you've been using something called JPA, which is the Java Persistence API. It's actually a really old standard. It's been around for, I think it was maybe, I think it sort of originated in the late 90s. So this is a very, very mature standard, and the latest version has a ton of features that were never in the original version. So we get a ton of conveniences that we didn't have before. But this is JPA. This class is using JPA. And it's also using something called EJB, which you can kind of see that there's this import javax.ejb. Long story short, if some of you tried to put persistence context into the calculator class and noticed that it didn't work, that's because persistence context can only be used inside of an EJB. So we had to create an EJB, and but then all we had to do was inject that EJB, which we did to create the calculator, and we did that in our calculator factory. So here we injected the EJB here, and then we built a calculator that we returned from the producer, and this whole produces this inject thing. This is kind of part of CDI, context and dependency injection is what CDI stands for, and there's actually a CDI is sort of its own thing a little bit, but for now just think of CDI as inject. If you think of inject and CDI as being the same thing, that's fine. Don't worry about it. They're basically very much joined at the hip. And then let's visit our calculator API. Here we used Jax-RS, and I forget exactly, it's like JavaX REST services, I think is like what it stands for. It's something like that. And then we used CDI here again. We injected our calculator, and then we injected our expression DAO, and then all we had to do was invoke those to perform their functions. So we had really neat separation of concern, right? So we built all of the business logic into the calculator class, and then we injected it into the API, and then our API's only job was to respond to web requests and expose REST endpoints on a certain URL. So that's all of what you guys have been learning about. And then let's finally visit the expression class. This is also JPA, again, the Java Persistence API. And so all of these things, these callbacks, pre-persist, that's a JPA thing. Using @ID to say that this is the primary key in the database, and then using generated value to say that we don't want to think about how we have to like generate the right ID. We want the database to handle generating IDs for us. So That's pretty much it. So now you guys know what you've been covering. Now that that's all over, let's continue to the next tutorial where I'm going to introduce our new project. Thanks for watching, and you can go ahead and get rid of this now. Goodbye.